Hello, my name is Isaiah Parrish, and today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite psychologists, Sigmund Freud. Now, I'm a psychology major, so ideally, I do like Sigmund Freud, and he's talked about in every psychology class, so I hear about him a lot. We're going to be talking about his theories on the id, ego, and superego, the Oedipus complex, and lastly, his theories on cocaine. Now, I knew a little bit about his first theory about the id, ego, and superego, but I wanted to brush up on it, so I looked at an article by Saul McLeod, and Sigmund Freud said you have three parts of your personality: the id, ego, and superego. Now, the id is the more infantile stage. It wants instant gratification. It's more dealing with your unconscious urges, like sexual and aggressive urges you might have to achieve pleasure. And he doesn't care how it gets the pleasure. It doesn't matter what consequences, logic, reason, none of it. It's more fantasy oriented, stuff that probably wouldn't happen, you probably wouldn't do because of the mediation you have with the ego. Now, the ego kind of steers the id on the right path. Sigmund Freud talked about it as if the ego was a jockey and the id was a horse. Now, the horse is a lot stronger than the jockey, as the id is the ego, but the ego still steers the horse on the right way. Using logic and reason, that's kind of how it works. Except the ego doesn't really have a moral compass. It just wants to achieve gratification without pain or consequence to the id or ego. And that's exactly where the superego comes in. Now, the superego deals with more morals, and it represses the sexual and aggressive urges you have as an id, and it also steers the ego on the moral path to a solution for your pleasure. And if the ego does kind of fall to the id, the superego has something you might have heard of, a conscience, which makes the ego feel bad. And the ego doesn't want to feel bad, so that kind of makes the ego go towards a more moral path on defining gratification. And that's one of Sigmund Freud's better theories, actually, surprisingly. It's still talked about today. We still abide by it. It's praised pretty much, except he's had some pretty bad theories too. I mean, I wouldn't say bad, I'd say weird theories. So it's time to talk about the Oedipus complex. Now, it's got its name from the story Oedipus by Sophocles, where there's a king, queen, and prince. The king sends the prince away because he had a vision that the prince was going to kill the king and I think marry the queen, which is a weird vision, but he had it. And as the story progresses, the prince ends up coming back and killing the king and marrying the queen without knowing it was his mom and dad, mother and father. That's kind of how this gets its name, so you can kind of see where this goes. Now, Sigmund Freud says you have secret urges where you have secret sexual urges in your unconscious that you feel towards this parent of the opposite sex. In this case, a mother-son relationship. A son wants the affection of his mother, and the son sees anyone trying to fight that as an enemy. The father is an enemy to the son, trying to take the affection away. And there's an opposite one too called the Electra complex. Now, the Electra complex is where it's a father-daughter relationship, and the daughter is fighting for the father's affection, and the mother's trying to take that away, or as the daughter sees. And so the mother is an enemy to the daughter at that point. It's a really weird theory, of course, and people would kind of see Sigmund Freud as the mom-sex complex guy. And it's what a lot of people actually think about when they hear about Sigmund Freud. So it's a bad reputation to have. They don't think about the good things he's done, just the weird things he's done. Something else that tarnished his reputation would be his prolific cocaine use. He actually prescribed it to morphine addicts because I guess back then cocaine was, everyone thought it was a good thing. And they thought, okay, you're addicted to one thing, we're going to get you addicted to this, and it's going to stop you from being addicted to the other thing. And they didn't think cocaine had a bad side. Well, it turns out he tried it with his friend who was a morphine addict, and his friend ended up being addicted to cocaine and morphine and passed away about 7 years later. But that didn't stop Sigmund Freud. It wasn't until many other people actually started overdosing on cocaine. And then Sigmund Freud stopped praising it, he stopped prescribing it, but the damage was done. I mean, he was also a prolific user of it, but his reputation was tarnished. Medical reputation was tarnished because he praised it for so long after it caused so much pain. But he still used it despite not prescribing it for his migraines, any physical ailments he might have had. He still used it. Uh, so his reputation has been tarnished in more than one ways, but he's still one of the more revolutionary people in the psychology era. Um, and he's one of my favorite psychologists for that reason, with all his thought and the books he's written, the theories he's had. Even though he's looked down on, he's still a really good psychologist. Anyway, today we talked about Sigmund Freud, and we talked about his theories on the Oedipus complex, the id, ego, and superego, and his theories on cocaine. Despite all the bad he's done, I think he's done a lot for psychology, and I don't think you can tell the story of psychology without talking about Sigmund Freud's contributions. Thank you for listening. My name's Isaiah. Goodbye.